Well, good morning, everyone. It is just a absolute joy to be with you here. And it's so wonderful that we have this technology that does open these avenues to us. So, uh, can I see the community? I was told that there is a camera that lets me maybe see the community. Is there something that lets me see everyone? If not, that's okay. But I just want to say that God is alive and well in Key West. Yes. Can we make some noise for that? My goodness. I just want to acknowledge all of the musicians and all of the team members, the community that is here, the community that's seated in the sanctuary, and all of those out there in cyberspace, in the technology, through Zoom, through Facebook, through all the different forms, the avenues that you're utilizing. God is guiding you. God is guiding this team, and that is evident. So bless each one of you and know that you're doing divine work. And I just want to acknowledge that and acknowledge the Christ presence that is within you. So let's get into our time together. So there was a trooper that he pulls over a Unity minister, and he steps up the car and he immediately smells alcohol. And he notices that next to him there is a empty wine bottle on the passenger seat. And he says, "Sir, have you been drinking?" And he says, "Well, I've been drinking water." And the officer glances over and sees that wine bottle, and he points it out. And the minister looks over at the bottle, and he jerks back and he looks at the officer and he says, "Good Lord, he's done it again." Yes, that water to wine consciousness. So in that idea, I just want to set a little framework, and spend some time before we get into the idea of back to the basics of maybe take a little trip down memory lane to set the framework for some of the work that we're going to do today, and set that intention just that we can remember a little bit of our roots and what we're made of. So it was in the spring. Here we are in the spring. What's the temperature there? Roughly 75. Wow. Well, here in Lee Summit, Missouri, it is 52. So it is, so it's spring. It's spring, and I'm looking out my my double doors, my double back doors, and we have squirrels everywhere. And that is an indication of spring. So it was actually in the spring of 1886 when there was a woman that was really in the height of an experience of illness. And that woman was Myrtle Fillmore. And in the height of this experience, she would go with Charles to a conference, a talk, if you will, to hear a speaker by the name of E.B. Weeks. Many of the New Thought leaders at the time were listening to what E.B. had to share. But Myrtle, like most of us, when we attend a talk or we attend a conference or a lecture or a workshop, we often don't carry back all of it, but there's a nugget maybe. Hopefully there's some little nugget that we take back that inspires us. And for Myrtle, this was the statement that she heard: "I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness." Now, the woman that left the conference was a woman that walked out of there with zest and zeal, and she demonstrated the exuberance of life, while the woman that walked in laying heavily on Charles' arm. Charles almost had to help her in there. She had her water to wine experience. There was an experience in that moment where her consciousness was illuminated to truth. And in the twinkling of an eye, she demonstrated that truth. She experienced that wholeness. Some stories say that it was tuberculosis that she was experiencing. Really, what we know is that she was very ill. We don't have any test results, but what we do know is she was very ill. And what we do know is that Myrtle was led to believe in her younger years that she was predisposed to this idea of tuberculosis. So what we understand in Unity is that she had that thought in her mind's eye, right? That seed was in there from her childhood. So that was Myrtle's water to wine experience, which led to Charles. Really, Charles was a scientific-minded man, and he really wanted to delve into this. So he really kind of began studying it a little more and a little more. And as I said, that was 1886. And then in 1889, the Unity School of Christianity was born. And then in 1890, Silent Unity was brought forth. So that is a little bit of the meat that is on our bones of our practice. That is the underlying current, the energy that we are built upon. This idea of prayer and meditation and affirmation, which is our three practices. So Unity's basic three practices, according to the Gospel of Matthew Starcher, is M.A.P. It's a map to life, M.A.P, meditation, affirmation, and prayer. And meditation, we know, was strongly demonstrated, through Charles, through stories of Charles. We hear where Charles would spend dedicated time in the silence. Now, how Charles put forth all the information and the books that he did and spent the time that he did in prayer is quite the inspiration to me. But he did it. And then we have affirmation, which we know in Unity. An affirmation is a statement of spiritual truth. It does not waver. It is truth that endures. Myrtle's statement of truth that she picked up was, I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. Myrtle knew that that which flowed through her was divine. And if it's divine, it can't be sick. She was able to grasp that. She had enough background to really be able to lay hold of that in her consciousness and make that shift in her consciousness, the holy shift, if you will. She made that change and had that outward demonstration because she had a full realization of spiritual truth. And that is that she is indeed healthy, whole, complete, and well in every way. And our third practice, if you will, in Unity is affirmative prayer. And affirmative prayer is, as it was stated in my bio, that I work with Silent Unity. I am a voice of Silent Unity. And affirmative prayer is actually anchoring into the truth of your nature, anchoring into the aspect of you that is God, that aspect that is divine, knowing that we live in a universe that fully supports us in every way, all the time. And those thoughts that we hold in mind, they do produce after our kind. That is kind of like a cliche statement. There's a little bit more to the equation to that. The equation is thought plus feeling equals manifestation. If we have note takers out there, you might want to write that one down. Thought plus feeling equals manifestation. Thoughts held in mind are great, and it's that feeling nature. The thought held in mind it gets the masculine aspect of the mind going, and the feeling nature is that feminine aspect. And when we blend the two, we bring forth the experience. Because in Unity, we know that every experience that we desire, it already is present out there. It's all about bringing ourselves into alignment with that. And when we bring ourselves into alignment with that, then when we bring forth the experience. So if we're having an experience like Myrtle of what appears to be sickness or ill health, in that very moment, there is the experience of wholeness and well-being. For we're created in the image and likeness of God, and therefore our truth is wholeness. So if that is our truth, and we bring ourselves in alignment with that, and we have that realization of truth, then immediately, like Myrtle, there must be an outpicturing. Yeah? Yeah. So that's the affirmative prayer part. So MAP. In our toolkit in Unity, we have a MAP and we have 5 basic principles. So the MAP is what gets us to where it is that we desire to go, what it is our heart desires, what it is that we're inspired to experience. It is the MAP, the meditation, the affirmation, the prayer that gets us there. And then in Unity, we have our 5 basic principles, right? So I'm sure many of you already know that our 5 basic principles um, started with the Unity statements of faith, excuse me. And the Unity statements of faith were actually written by Charles Fillmore, and they were published in 1921. And the Unity statements of faith were 32 statements of faith described by Charles Fillmore, which I'm sure many of you have already read Charles, so you already know what these statements of faith sounded like. I love Charles, and I have to read him at a pace that allows me to process. And that takes a minute sometimes when I'm working with Charles. So as you can imagine what these 32 statements of faith would be. We're not going to go through them today because of time, but there are 32 statements. If you are inspired to want to learn what they are, you can find them on truthunity.net. They are there. But those were the original, that was the original response. The question is that many of us get, you get, I get, we all get it. What is unity, right? What is unity? Well, Charles heard this. So he developed these 32 statements of faith. And out of that, it took until 1990 when Charles' great granddaughter, which is Connie Fillmore Bazzi, she sat down and when she stepped into leadership of Unity School of Christianity, she sat down and she decided to do a majorly condensed these statements of faith, 32 statements of faith. And thus was born our 5 principles. I find it interesting that it took from 1921 to 1990 for this evolution to happen. But that's really what our movement is all about. It's always all about expansion and evolution. So our 5 basic principles, looking at those very quick. Many of us may know those, we may not. First principle, there may be some place where you have it in a bulletin or something to read very quick. If you do, great. If not, don't worry about it. First principle number 1, there is only one presence and only one power that is active as the universe and as my life, God the good. Principle number 2, our essence is of God, therefore we are inherently good. And this God essence was fully expressed in Jesus the Christ. Principle number 3, we are co-creators with God, creating a reality through our thoughts held in mind. Principle number 4, through prayer and meditation, we align ourselves with heart, mind, with God, and denials and affirmations are tools that we use. And principle number 5 is our thoughts, words, and actions. Through thoughts, words, and actions, we live the truth that we know. For myself, even that was a bit much to retain. I love these principles and I use these principles all the time. And as it says, I've been looking at this stuff for a minute now. But still, these 5 principles are a bit for me to remember in a moment of forgetting my truth, in a moment of fear, in a moment where anxiety begins to take over. Remembering all of that takes a minute for me. So the version that I work with and that I'd like to share with you today, principle number 1, God is. Principle number 2, I am. Principle number 3, I think it. Principle number 4, I pray it. Principle number 5, I live it. God is, I am, I think it, I pray it, I live it. God is, I am, I think it, I pray it, I live it. God is, I am, I think it, I pray it, I live it. Let's do it as a community. God is, I am, I think it, I pray it, I live it. We could even get our musicians involved and come up with a little chant. God is, I am, I think it, I pray it, I live it. That, for me, I could hold on to. I can hold on to that in a moment of fear. I can hold on to knowing, regardless of the appearance of outward circumstances, in the moment and the experience of the appearance of a global pandemic, God is, I am. I think wholeness, well-being. I pray wholeness and well-being. And therefore I must live wholeness and well-being. For these are principles. And just like 1 and 1 has always equaled 2, and chances are it probably always will. These 5 principles, when employed, bring us an experience. God is, I am, I think it, I pray it, I live it. So holding to that, knowing that as we move through this experience, we do have challenges, we do have shifts. There are experiences, ups and downs, global pandemics, experiences of scarcity or lack or limitation, disharmony. But what is it that is calling you forward to demonstrate the divinity that is within you? What is it that you are seeking? Is it an experience of prosperity? Is it the perfect relationship? Is it the perfect career? Whatever it is that you're experiencing, we know God has placed that desire in your heart so that you may experience that desire in the manifest realm. And as you live, God is. God is all that there is. It is within the mind of God that we live, move, and have our being. Therefore, I am of that. I am. I am an expression of the one power and one presence that is active in the universe. Thoughts held in mind, I think it. And I activate the feeling nature. What does it feel like in that moment to have that perfect relationship? What does it feel like to know that all of my needs are met? For that's your truth, right? Your truth is that all of your needs are already abundantly met, not met. They're already abundantly met. There's always enough. God is, I am, I think it, I pray it, affirming those statements of truth. I am whole, well, and complete. I am an perfect expression of the divine. We know God doesn't make mistakes. God don't make junk, right? God don't make junk. So as we continue to move through this experience and we release any fear, any doubt, any worry, any anxiety, we release that, whatever that may be, and that space must be filled with whatever it is we're holding in our mind. So we remain committed to a practice of, we remain committed to thoughts of, we remain committed to exercising principles, and remain committed to thoughts of wholeness, well-being, prosperity, abundance, all things good. It is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. What is the kingdom? What we are holding in our mind. That which you have domain over. Where are our thoughts? I think it. Doing those think checks. I pray it. Affirmative prayer, connecting into the aspect of you that is whole, holy, and eternal. connecting to the entire universe and then affirming your truth and knowing that it is brought to you. In the moment of spiritual realization, in the moment of the illumined consciousness, like water to wine, like Myrtle's experience, where she demonstrated wholeness in the time of walking into one talk like this one. She experienced an awakening and then demonstrated wholeness and well-being, and thus was brought forth this movement that continues to expand, that is built upon the principles of healing and prosperity. And right now, my friends, is a time in our world where we are called to demonstrate our truth. People say all the time that Charles Fillmore reserved the right to change his mind. And it's also stated, which nobody usually mentions or remembers. The paragraph before that, Charles states that fundamentals do not change. So we anchor in and we go back to the basics. Prayer, meditation, affirmation, and prayer, using the M.A.P, employing our 5 basic principles of unity, working in a co-partnership with God to bring heaven manifest on earth. That is our work. And this is the day that the Lord has made. So let us rejoice and be glad in it. This is the moment that the law is working. Let us relax and allow it. So I see each of you releasing any fear, doubt, or worry and affirming an experience of life-changing greatness right now as we use our tools and co-creating this amazing journey that we call life. God bless each and every one of you. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you very much.